Hey, this is Chloe with Bakcou. Today we're going to go over assembling our Storm. It's easy to do at home. All the tools you'll need to assemble the Storm are in the box. The only tools you'll need to grab are a few things to cut open the packaging. So let's get into it. So first we'll just take off the straps. And then you can use a razor blade to cut open the front, and that makes it easy to take the bike out of the box. Just be a little careful here. You don't want to accidentally puncture anything that's in the box. At home, you can work on the cardboard box. This will prevent your carpet or floor from getting messed up at all. We're gonna go ahead and move the box out of the way though for this video. Now that you have your workstation set up however you like it, you should be seeing the bike with a bunch of packaging to keep it safe in shipping, the fender, and then this has a few of the tools you'll need to set it up and also your pedals. In the box, you'll also receive the battery. What I like to do is immediately put the battery on the charger so that it's charging up while I'm building the bike. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove all the packaging from the bike. We're gonna need to cut zip ties, so it is nice to have some sharp cutting pliers to get through all this stuff. When you're cutting off the zip ties, just be careful to not scratch up your bike or puncture the tire. Now that you have all the packaging removed, you should be left with your bike, the front wheel, a box of accessories, and the fender. So let's go over what's in this box. So in this box, you'll find a lot of the things you'll need to put the bike together. We have the pedals, we'll do that a little bit later. We have the owner's manual for the fork. We got a few stickers. We have, this is the multi-tool that comes with the bike, so this will help you put everything together. And then there's also the charger for the bike. So that's the 4 amp fast charger for the Storm. So right now, we're just gonna want the multi-tool to start putting this together. I'm gonna put the rest to the side. But first, we're gonna put the handlebars onto the bike. Sometimes the stem comes backwards, so you'll just need to turn that 180 so that it's facing the correct direction. To do that, we're just gonna loosen up some of these bolts and turn it around. All right, so we'll turn that around and then make sure it's all squared up and facing forward. And we can readjust everything later as we go, so don't worry about things being perfect right off the bat. We'll check it over before we finish up. So after tightening down the top, go ahead and do the sides. I like to come around and go back and forth to make sure there's even tension on the top and bottom bolt. Awesome. With that tightened down, we'll remove this faceplate and then we'll put the handlebars on. With the front plates removed, you might notice a piece of plastic. You can leave that in there. That just protects the steerer tube. Now we'll bring the handlebars around, and you just want to make sure that they're rotated the correct way. So the Bakcou label will be forward. You'll have the electric controls on your left side, and just make sure that all the cords and cables are being routed correctly. You can adjust the tilt of the handlebars later. First, I just like to get the base plate loosely on there so that I can let go of the handlebars. When I put on these bolts, I also move around so that there's equal tension on each bolt. So I'll tighten one a little bit and then move on to the other one and keep going around so that no bolt has more tension than the others. So then with the faceplate loosely on, we can just tilt this, and there are lines on the bars that show where center is, so make sure your bars are centered. So now with the handlebars on and centered, I'm gonna go ahead and move to the kickstand and just make sure that's tight. They usually come on the bike. If not, it's just a few bolts to put them on, but we'll make sure that's tight and then we'll put on the front wheel. All right, so now the kickstand is tightened on and we're gonna go ahead and put the front wheel on. Our newer bikes feature a through axle. Some of our older bikes are a quick release axle. So this one will be for a through axle. A quick release is pretty similar though. All right, so I'll remove this piece. That's just part of the packaging to protect it. To install the front wheel, first you're gonna have to take off the through axle. So take this lever and make sure that it goes into the slot here. Once it's in there, you can start loosening it. So just unthread it from the other side. And then you can pull it out. There's also a piece of plastic between the brake calipers, so you'll remove that. Once you have that piece of plastic out, it's important not to hit your brake levers because it will push the calipers together and then you won't be able to fit the wheel in. Installing the front wheel by yourself can be a little tricky. Here's how I do it. I get the through axle kind of started, but not through it all. Then I take the wheel and just pull this up over it. And then shimmy this in. All right, with the axle through, then you'll just need to screw it onto the other side. Make sure that it's engaging on the threads on the other side of the fork. With the front wheel installed, you can go ahead and put the kickstand down, and now you can hold the bike up with that. Now you might notice that the bike is leaning over a lot, so you can actually adjust the height of the kickstand. There's just a small bolt behind here that will move to adjust the height. So I'm loosening this bolt. And now tilt the bike up, put this down so that it's just tilted over a hair, and then tighten that bolt again. Now with the kickstand height adjusted properly, the next step will just be to put on the pedals. A good way to attach the pedals is to go ahead and put them near the threads, hold the metal part, and then all you have to do is pedal backwards, and that will engage the pedal. To finish off getting the pedal tightened on, I used an Allen wrench. On the left side, you'll turn it to the right if you're looking at it this way to tighten it the rest of the way on. And now I'll move on to the right side. So again, I will go ahead and put the threads next to here and pedal backwards to get it started. And once you can't go any farther, you can get out the Allen. And on the right side, you'll be going to the left to tighten it on, which is a little counterintuitive, but that's so the pedal doesn't work itself loose while you're riding. Make sure your pedals are on nice and tight, and then you can move on to the next step. The next step will be putting on the front fender. Go ahead and take it out of its wrapping. To put on the front fender, you can just loosen up this wing nut a little bit, and then push it in to the head tube right here, and then tighten that wing nut again. And you just need that hand tight. Then you'll notice that the back of the fenders may be up too high, so you'll adjust this knob over here, loosen that, put it down, make sure that it'll go between the wheel and the frame of the bike, and then tighten it back on. And that's all there is to installing the front fender. Now you can go grab your battery off the charger and install it in your bike. So you just go ahead and put the bottom part in, and then click it, and you'll hear it snap into the top. And then you can go ahead and turn on the bike. To do that, you'll press and hold the button, and that'll power on the battery. And then you can press and hold the power button up here, and that'll power on the bike. Now we'll just go over a quick bike check, and then you're ready to ride. So before your first ride, there's a few more things you're gonna want to get dialed in. For one, you're gonna want to adjust a seat height to something you're comfortable at. A common rule of thumb is that when you're sitting on the bike, you want this leg to be just barely bent. So for me, that means I want to move this seat up about 6 inches. All right, so to adjust the seat height, we'll just go ahead and loosen this up. Put the seat to the desired height, and then tighten it back down, and cam this lever down to make sure that it is nice and tight there. Now with your seat height adjusted, just make sure that you like the rotation of the handlebars. So I like to sit over my bike and make sure that I'm comfortable with where the grips are and the brakes. For me, it's good right now, but if you're unhappy with it, you can just loosen these bolts up a little bit, rotate the handlebars, and then make sure to re-tighten these bolts. Now that you've checked the fit of the bike, you have the seat set correctly, these bolts are tightened down, it's important to go through a quick check of the bike just to make sure it's safe to ride. I like to go what's called an M check, and by the M, so we start with down here, make sure that this through axle is on tight. Check that, looks good. As you move up the M, you'll come to the brakes. Make sure those are engaging, that they're working here. Everything here is in good condition. Then we'll go down the M to the pedals. We put those on tight, make sure those are good. After the pedals, we'll move up the M to the seat. Make sure that that's on tightly, that this is locked down, that nothing's shaking. And then to finish out the M, that is just the rear wheel and making sure that the chain and derailleur looks like it's in good condition. It's important to go through that check before every ride just to make sure that everything's in great working condition. After you're going through the M check, the last thing to make sure of is that the PSI throughout the bike is set correctly. So first we'll go over the tire PSI. We usually run the tires around 20. The max on these is 30. You don't really want to go to 30, so 20 to 25 is usually around the right range. So with the tire pressure set correctly, you just want to make sure that your shocks are set correctly with a shock-specific pump. Thanks, Travis. The front shock you're going to want to set around 150 PSI is a good starting point, whereas the rear shock will be at around 200 PSI. And that's really all there is to setting up your bike. At this point, Now you can get out and ride. If you have any additional questions, you can contact us at Bakcou.com. Give us a call, send us an email. We also have a lot of great resources on our YouTube if you have any other questions. Thanks so much for watching.